Hey people! In the last video I gave you a few basic tips on how to work with the metronome and explained, for example, why we shouldn't increase the tempo in increments of 10. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out here. In this video I want to show you a few lesser known and highly effective methods that you can use to train your timing with every exercise and on every instrument. So here we go. Most of the time we set the metronome to the pulse, i.e. the basic beat of the song or the exercise, and then let ourselves be guided by the click. But that means that we hand over responsibility. It's like we're constantly riding our bike with training wheels. At a certain point it just doesn't help us anymore and we have to discard them. We have to learn to generate and maintain the pulse ourselves. And the best exercise for this is the so-called gap click. As the name implies, the gap click simply means that several beats or even bars are mute in the flow of the metronome, which we then have to bridge ourselves. So now we have to keep the tempo ourselves. This method is highly effective because we get constant feedback as we play. We have to keep the tempo ourselves and are corrected when we hear the metronome again. Always alternating. A constant comparison. It's like memorizing something. It is much more effective if you are tested than if you just read whatever you want to memorize again and again. If we have to come up with something ourselves, we internalize it much better. That's a general principle of learning. There are special apps for this, but almost every app or metronome has a way to set it to a gap click. Start by muting just a single beat first, maybe only every other bar. And then you eliminate more and more beats until you have one bar of metronome and one bar of silence in which you have to keep the tempo yourself. If that works, you can go further and maybe even mute 2 bars. That's really difficult, I know. But of course, also a great training for your timing. In this example coming up, I got a little bit too slow at the beginning. In order to get back on track, it is important that you don't skip notes now, but that you increase the speed very slightly until you are back on it. In order not to get too fast, then you have to decrease the tempo very lightly. Think of it as if you were 2 people riding bikes next to each other. If you fall back, of course you have to speed up until you are level, but then slow down a tiny bit in order not to get too fast and overtake the other person. So this is what you do constantly when you ride bikes next to each other, but you do it intuitively. It's the fine course correction I told you about in the first video. And that's what we have to practice on our instrument as well until it becomes flesh and blood. Practicing like this is a lot better because if you played with others, the music would stumble if you correct it by abruptly changing the tempo or skipping beats. The second version of the gap click is that you hear only one beat of each bar, maybe only on the one at first. Later, you try to hear it on other beats of the measure, and you can also consciously choose a certain beat to support your groove. Maybe on the 4 and to support the anticipated and syncopated character. This way, with a metronome, you not only improve your timing, but you can also use it consciously to support your groove and musical expression. But you can also do the opposite and place the metronome on the weak beats or those that you don't play at all. And that brings us to the next super effective timing exercise, the offbeat click. Here, the metronome is on the weak beats, so all the ands of the 8th notes, or even on the 16th note offbeat. Here, the click can no longer replace your own pulse, but strengthens it by comparing it with the metronome all the time. The pulse and the metronome must together produce a flow of accurate 8th or 16th notes. This is why you should count out loud with this exercise when possible. So together they form a finer grid and thus train your accuracy. Also, this exercise will keep you focused as you will be tempted to slip on the beat. You have to fight against this urge. So this exercise also trains your attention and timing awareness. To do it properly, you'll probably have to play slower than usual, but that's good. It reveals imperfections that you can then resolve so that it sounds cleaner and more confident when you play it faster later. But there's one more way to work on accuracy. I would recommend this to you if you want to internalize something complex very slowly and precisely. Set the metronome to the smallest note value. Then you have the finest grid possible that you can lay out in order to be able to place your strokes as precisely as possible. That always helped me a lot, especially with shuffle rhythms. What you can also do is to set the metronome on the beats that you are not playing, similar to the offbeat click. I also found that very helpful with the shuffle when the click plays the second note of a triplet. This way, the metronome complements the rhythm. Or you go so far that the metronome even completely replaces one of the beats. Polyrhythms are a great exercise to train your independence and expand your musical repertoire. Here you have to be very careful to keep your pulse because you are tempted to slip into the other rhythm. Even if you don't play polyrhythms, you can practice them and make your timing training a little more interesting by setting the metronome to a polyrhythm. So this is not the pulse, but a dotted eighth note. So it's a 3/4 polyrhythm. This exercise is also particularly difficult when played slow. If that is still too easy for you, you can of course count the metronome as a polyrhythm in 5 or even 7, for example. Or you even combine it with a gap click. If you want even bigger challenges, check out the DVD Musician First, Drummer Second by Mark Kelso. There are some very interesting and challenging exercises for your timing in there. Now you know some methods and variations with which you can get a lot more out of your timing training than just setting the metronome on the quarter notes. Do you know more? Then please tell me in the comments. If you have tried the exercises and tricks, please write me your experiences in the comments as well. You can of course practice all of these methods on their own in order to only train your timing, but I would recommend that you choose the method that best suits the current exercise you are working on, perhaps combine and adapt them, so you can always scale the difficulty of the exercises yourself in order to keep yourself in the flow, and you also automatically train your timing with every exercise. If you want to measure your progress, or if you have to keep the tempo exactly when recording or rehearsing, then use a quarter note click. If you want to improve your own sense of timing, use the gap click or set the metronome to a polyrhythm. If you want to improve your precision, set the metronome to the smallest note values, to the offbeat, or replace individual beats in your rhythm with a click. All of this creates a good relationship with your metronome over the long term and also creates confidence as your timing and accuracy improve. As I said in the first part, the metronome is your best friend. It's honest and doesn't sugarcoat anything, and so you can recognize your weaknesses and even turn them into strengths. All of these methods have helped me a lot to improve my timing. If you want to see more videos on how you can learn your instrument effectively, subscribe now and activate the notification bell so that you get a new tip every week on how you can improve as a musician and as a result also develop as a person. And if you want to help me keep making these videos for you, then please take a look at my Patreon page. The link is in the description below. There you will get exclusive content, workshops and personal gifts from me and help so that I can make more and better videos for you. Thank you very much for watching this one. I will see you in the next one. Take care and bye bye.